Hey everybody! In this video I wanted to show y'all how I enjoy making one of my herringbone design bracelets that's made on memory wire. You can use either size of the memory wire. This is the size that's typically used for like necklaces and stuff, but let me see if I can't find a loose end of it so I can show you. And I can't. There it is. Maybe? Yeah. Because with this, what we would do is you can still size it down and it keeps it shaped pretty well. But it's just when you'd have to use a clasp on it. And on this bracelet here, I wanted to make a bangle that didn't need a clasp. So I'm going to go with the smaller bracelet size. There are memory wire cutters out there on the market. I just use a pair of junked up wire snips that just get junkier the more I do this to them. So, but it will mess up the blade of a lot of your wire snips. So keep that in mind. Don't use your really good snips on the memory wire. And I'm going to be cutting it where there's about an inch of overlap on the bracelet, because we can always trim more off later. Just like that. And I'm going to be cutting 3 lengths of this. Now, memory wire typically is not my favorite thing to work with, but it is an excellent way to get these kind of stacked bracelets to all lay properly in together. But just keep in mind that a few years from now, the memory wire, like if you bend it a lot, might break. So, but I guess that could be said of any jewelry. Okay, so now we have our 3 circles cut and ready to go. And what I'm going to start off by doing immediately is taking my round nose pliers. Yeah, sorry, I dove right in. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the tools we're going to be using. We have wire snips, round nose pliers, bent nose pliers, and nylon jaw pliers if you have or prefer them. And then I'm also going to be using 18 gauge and 20 gauge copper core para wire. This is copper that's been covered in a clear enamel, so you don't have to worry about it tarnishing. And then here I'm using green aventurine, but you could use whatever gemstone type or even bead size that you like. That's the least important aspect of this tutorial. The main focus is on the technique that you can learn and then apply to your own designs. And here I have 8mm, 6mm, and 4mm. These two are in green aventurine and these are in copper. Okay, so now that we've gone over that, kind of important, I'm going to come through and on one end of each of the memory wires, I'm going to bend along with the curve. Like, I don't want to go against it, but I'm going to bend with the curve of the memory wire. Just like I'm doing a spiral, but I'm just going to bend it around until it touches. Just like that. What happened?
I left one of the colors up.
Oh no.
And I'm 4 inches in.
Well, just keep going. Is it consistent?
Yeah?
Then you're doing good.
You want me to make another one after this?
Well, yeah. Sorry, that just, Randy's behind me working on production and he's like, oh no, I messed up. And I'm like, no, you didn't. It just came out different. So that's a big theme through all of our work. This is not what I planned, but this is what's happening. Bless his little heart though. He's like, I don't want to make another one. Make another one. Back to work, minions. Okay, so I'm going to hold as close to the tip of the pliers and as close to the tip of the wire as what I can. And then I do this like if you're on a motorcycle and vroom vroom or a dirt bike, the accelerator, it's that same hand motion, kind of bringing it around. Getting a nice little loop there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this third one. Just grasping. And there we go. I'm going to do it a little bit deeper. I want as good of a closure as I can get And this wire is just so stiff that it's not exactly perfect for making little loops, but those will work. I'm going to see if I can't use a different base for this little camera to see if I can get you guys just a little bit more of a zoomed out perspective of what we're working on. Maybe this will work. Yeah, that might be pretty good. Okay, so now on 2 of these strands, I'm going to do a repetitious, just one 4mm and one 6mm, just stringing the beads on. And you can do this with whatever beads you like in whatever pattern you like. Like this part here is truly just your own artistic, stylized preference. So you could incorporate bead caps, you could do wire wrapped links, I mean all sorts of stuff. Like little wire wrapped coiled beads, just whatever you like. But keep in mind this stuff's pretty springy. The wire is. And so it can, ouch, spring back and get you. That's why I'll string some on and then kind of keep it stored there in my hand. And I really liked just the, I wanted to emphasize the simplicity of these 2 edge. Well, you'll see in the final result. The 2 that are like this are going to be sandwiching the herringbone pattern that I'm going to be doing down the middle. Excuse me. Oh, thank you, Randy. Sorry, it is that time of year. Just allergies. And so this is very repetitious, but it's fun. This is actually how I started making jewelry, was just stringing beads like this. And skill-wise, it is not the most challenging thing, but it does give an opportunity to show off just really pretty beads, which whenever you're marketing like your products at craft shows and stuff, people don't always notice how much work goes into something. They notice stuff that's pretty. And so sometimes just strung beads is perfect, especially for like beefing up inventory, or if your hands need a little bit of a recovery day. The only thing I've found is that sometimes the strung beads can actually be a little bit more, like quite a bit more expensive actually, to make than just a wire wrapped design. And the reason behind that I've found is this takes a lot of beads, whereas the centerpiece, the third piece of memory wire that we're going to be decorating, is going to be wire wrapped, and it uses much fewer beads, even though there's more wire and more work involved. So that's something to keep in mind in your pricing. Because that's probably the #1 thing that we get the most questions about here on YouTube, is how we would recommend people price their work. Excuse me. And a lot of it is you just have to be very aware of what your costs are. So it's like whenever you buy the memory wire, figure up how much it is per inch for the memory wire, because you have if you're working with an unopened spool, gosh, it's been so long since I bought memory wire, about 7 years is how old this spool of memory wire was, and I'm finally using it up. But, so I don't know how much memory wire currently is on the market, but, just take your total price, for the spool, and how many inches, or how many feet it says, and convert that to inches, and then, just divide, if it's $5 for 100 inches, then you do 100 divided by 5, or 5 divided by 100. I don't know. I'm not particularly good at math, especially when I'm just off the fly like that. Yeah, it'd be $5 divided by 100, because it's like price per piece or price per inch. And that's the same way that we do for like the beads and stuff. Okay. So there we go. And I gave myself just a little bit extra more than what I needed. but I think that'll be good. So I'm actually going to snip so that I have about 1 centimeter. And trying very hard to not let it just slide off the end. I'm going to grab the wire as close to the tip of the pliers and as close to the tip of the wire as what I can, and start bringing it down into a loop. And you can see here, I let it cross just a little bit to make it shorten down, because I don't want there to be a lot of movement between the beads. So there's one. And now for symmetry's sake, because these beads are very consistent in size, and so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of the large beads. So I'm going to try to repeat that on this one to get them to be exactly the same. And so now on this end, you can see I actually grabbed a little farther up, but that's because I gauged how much wire was left there, and I knew I was going to end up cinching and circling it down a bit. So just like that. And you can see this end went a little wonky, so I'm just going to take it with my bent nose and twist it around, because I want it to lay very flat. Okay, so there's these two pieces, and now we get into the fun part. Come back over to this is where I'm going to be using some 20 gauge wire, and I'm working off the spool, which means it's attached. I haven't snipped it, but I'm going to make as teeny tiny of a little loop as I can at the very tip of my pliers. So just like that. And I'm going to use the thicker part of my round nose pliers to bend this around to get a nice kind of curved shape there. And I'm going to thread this on. Well, first I'm going to thread one of the 8mm beads onto our memory wire. And then I'm going to thread this little loop that we made onto the memory wire as well. And from here, I'm just going to do the herringbone wrap, which looks like this. You'll bring it around, and you don't want it to go behind the wire like that. You want it to stay on top like this. And you'll notice I use my thumbnails to keep everything nice and situated cleanly. And so I'm just going to wrap it around, a full rotation around the memory wire. And then I'm going to wrap around to the other side like this. And there's one full rotation. And I love this because it leaves the beads all spinny. And then I'm going to wrap and kind of stack behind that first rotation that we did. And the memory wire can be a little frustrating to work with because it keeps stabbing you in the back of the hand, which is another reason why I do that little loop there. But you'll figure it out. Keep that wire nice and straight. And I'm just going to wrap around like that. And our goal here is to keep the wrapping as nice and tight and neat as possible. Okay. And we also, if I do 3 wraps on this end, which so far I have 1, 2, well, the original, then 2, then 3. So I'll want 1, 2, and this will be my 3rd one on this end, because I really like that sense of symmetry and balance. But I actually think I'm going to do should I keep it at 3? I mean, that looks pretty nice. Yeah, I think I'll keep it at 3. And so I'm going to bring it around because you can count 1, 2, 3 wires on this side, 1, 2, 3 wires on that side. So this will be my last time wrapping this one. And so I'm just going to wrap it like that. And snip it. So I'm going to come in here with my pliers and snip. And this little bit of a tail that's left right there, I'm going to use, sorry, I'm going to use my bent nose pliers to come in and just bend that nice and down. Come on, camera. Don't fail me now. There we go. Because you don't want any weird little pokey snaggy bits. And so now from here, what we're going to do is I'm going to grab this end that has not been rounded of the memory wire, and I'm just going to pull this through until it's butted up to the end there. And we're going to repeat this same thing all the way around on this bracelet piece. So let's start doing that. Oops. So I'm just going to make us that little loop and start to bend it around like that. I'm going to thread on a bead, which at this point you could totally do a little copper bead in between, or maybe like a little 4mm amethyst, or not amethyst, aventurine. Heck, you could do amethyst, just whatever you want. I just wanted to show you guys the technique of using memory wire as a core for herringbone weave. Okay, so again, wrapping around, and it's really important in this weave to keep the wire on the same side of the core each time. And if you messed up, don't hesitate to, you know, kind of unwrap it, use your nylon gel pliers to straighten the wire out, and just try again. And so I'm just going to wrap around, and this is our first full rotation. So I'm going to wrap this way and wrap around. And wrap around. And wrap around. And this will be 3 wires on this side, 3 wires on that side. So this will be my final time to wrap on here. Just wrapping like that. snip. And I'm going to use my bent nose pliers to come in and just smush that down. And now I'm going to take these same pliers and just kind of pull it through. I do it a little bit at a time because I don't want to straighten out this memory wire too much. And that's how they look, just butted end to end. And you want to feel with your finger and make absolute certain that there's no pokey bits. And so we're going to do that whole lots of bunches of times. Yeah, that's a very specific amount, whole lots of bunches. So coming in, rotating that around. And if you didn't get it the first time, don't worry, we get to do this like a whole bunch of times. So surely you'll get the hang of it. And then just thread onto here. Wrap it around. Bring it up to there. Wrap it around. Bring it up to there. And so also, like, the more you do this too, the more ingrained in your muscle memory it'll become, the easier it'll be for you. Third one on this side. Wrapping around. And this will be the third wire on this side. And so I'm going to wrap around and trim. Kind of struggling with it a little bit, trying to keep it in frame. So I'm sorry for wandering off this this camera right here. Whenever, that's why we have this one, boop, right here. That is great for catching me whenever I do go out of frame, as as I do. Okay, so there we are, and then I'm just going to pull and pull and pull, just like that. And so you can see this has a completely different effect, but they look really nice, kind of contrasting. And also, just this one little piece by itself would make a really cute bracelet. And that's something that just little memory wire herringbone bracelets is something that we've carried in stock for, it's been a few years since we had it, but I had made like about 50 of them one year in a bunch of different gemstone types and bead styles and different things. And they sold really well for us. I don't know why I didn't bother restocking them. It's just, that's always something that I struggle to find a balance with, is needing to kind of mass produce products to be able to have inventory, but wanting to make something unique. It's just, it gets really difficult, and you just have to compromise. And the way that I do that is, it's like, well, I like this, but some people don't like green and copper together. They might like the way it looks, but they don't want to wear it themselves personally, but they might like the way amethyst and silver looks. So the way that I would beef up inventory, and the way that we still do, is I would take a design like this one, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to make this in 4 different, let's see, I usually work in silver, antique silver, copper, antique copper, and vintage bronze. So I have 5 different metal colors that I'd like to make this in. And let's say we have about, 10 different gemstone, types. So I would do the green aventurine here in all 5 metal colors, and then go on to the next bracelet or the next gemstone type and do that in all 5 metal colors. And so it gets really, really kind of tedious, but sit and stream some Star Trek and and get your inventory made. I mean, it's like, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, you just sit around and make jewelry all day. And it's like, yeah, I sit around and make jewelry all day to try to get enough inventory for these events and things. So it's
16 to 18 hours a day.
Yeah, some days we've done 16 to 18 hours of work, because a lot of the times, like, Randy and I will be buckling on a project, and this is way too tall for this. We'll be like, well, we need, let's finish this project today. And so we'll just keep working until we finish that project. And sometimes, we can get a project done in a few hours, and sometimes it takes literally all day. Okay. So there's that. Now I'm going to snip. But it's also, that's something that I feel like has really helped me to get a lot better very quickly whenever we pick up a new technique, is because it's like I'll come up with a new design or see a new technique that I'd like to use, and then 18 hours later you'll be surprised at how much you've improved at something if you've done it nonstop for 18 hours. There's always the company mandated cuddle breaks and stuff, and you got to go feed the dogs and all that stuff, but we put in pretty solid work days, and that's something that just because we're not leaving the house to go to an office or to go to a factory or something like that, doesn't mean that you're not putting in the same amount of work as somebody who has a standard 9 to 5 kind of job. But it does take a whole lot more self-discipline to be like, to make yourself like just do it, but that's what it takes. Okay, so wrapping around like that. And that's something in the convention circuit, especially with a lot of our friends are artists, and some of them, caught some flack worse than we did, or not quite so bad as we did, but we all catch our own flack in our own way from like parents and friends and in-laws being like, well, when are you gonna get a real job? And it's and it's like the most endlessly frustrating thing. I think any professional artist that you talk to will have experienced that at some point in their life, and it's like, you have no idea how much work this actually is. Especially too whenever you're starting out, and it's like you're your own marketing crew, you're your own logistics and transportation. Like, it's like you're literally doing everything. Manufacture, sales, customer relations, like, I mean, every department of a company you're doing on your own. And I feel like that's where I've gotten really, really lucky that to have Randy to help me through, because it's two of us doing the business instead of just one. Oops. And I don't think I would have been nearly as successful if I didn't have Randy helping me keep my head on straight. And I just keep experimenting with different boxes to put underneath my camera, trying to find an ideal height so that you're not just seeing that part of my hand. And I mean, in all honesty, I'm probably going to go through and edit this out so that you aren't having to watch me make the same thing like 20 times, but then we wouldn't get to hang out. That, and you never know, like, something weird might happen, and I'm like, oh, see, look, this is a thing that can happen. Okay, so wrapping that around. I'm gonna see if it works better with that right there. Get my pliers out of the way. And around like that. And around like that. There's second wire on both sides. And come around. And now double check, 3 on that side, 3 on that side. We're good to go. Snip. And bring that around. that's really coming along nicely. Like, I mean, I love this design. I think I'm going to make a lot more of it for in the booth. So just grabbing the wire as close to both the tips as I can. And then grabbing on the side right there. And just twisting around a bit. And that helps give me a more rounded initial wrap. And I'm going to thread on our bead. Get my pliers out of the way. And thread on another bead. And see, that one's a bit blocky, a little blockier than I'd like it to be, so I'm just going to straighten that out some. And then come in and around like this. Okay. Yeah, I'll be the first to say, whenever I started recording with some of these other cameras, it was pretty horrible. Like, I was like over here doing jewelry, like all kinds of stuff. But I have gotten better, but I still feel like I have a whole lot of room for improvement. Like, I'm mostly trying to figure out how to keep this camera right here, in a way that I can still work, but it catches, you know, this perspective for y'all, because there's a difference between looking at it from here and looking at it from there. And here's the third one on this side. And there's the third one on this side. There we go. And now I'm going to use my pliers to smush that down. And I'm going to grab it right there. And I'm just going to pull through. And so that's really coming out nicely, I think. So now I'm going to do it again. And if your wire starts to get all kind of bumpy and weird, you can just take your nylon gel pliers, or if you don't have one of these, you can take like a piece of blue jean in between your fingers and just straighten it on back out. Now that will work harden it, but I use dead soft wire. So it's not too bad. Okay, grab it there, rotate it around just a bit, thread a bead on, and like I said, it's nothing if not repetitive, so you'll get the hang of it. It's kind of, I don't know, I really like it as an opportunity to just kind of let my mind wander and kind of explore the possibilities of the design mentally while I'm working on it. Keeping it nice and tight. And you could experiment with different wire gauges, doing like coiling the wire before wrapping it, using multiple beads, like all sorts of stuff. I have found that for myself personally, the 20 gauge, like, I just liked the way it looks. It's very durable and like sturdy, like it has a good presence, without being too delicate or too bulky. And it's really easy on my hands. Whereas the 18 gauge is just a little harder on my hands. And then like 16 gauge is beautiful, what with its like really thick and nice presence. So it looks like, let's compare here real quick. We're gonna have, ooh, it looks like a couple more. Phew, I hope we have enough room on the wire, which we should. Bring it around, putting a bead on there. And it's going to get tighter and tighter the more you add on. So bring that around, pushing it down, wrapping around. And you can see this is it's beating my fingers up. So if your hands hurt while you're doing this, you are not alone. It's just something, the more you do it, the more resilient your hands will become, maybe, or just the more used to it hurting. But it's all part of it, I think. Okay, and just wrapping that around, pulling it down, and I think we're gonna fit on one more repetition. Sorry for all the plier clunking noises. And it's just part of it too, maybe. Making a nice little curve like that. Threading a bead on. And now it makes me feel like it's a little precarious being so close to the end, but we can do this. Wrapping around, wrapping around. And again, this will be, I'm going to emphasize one more time, you don't want it to wrap around the back side here. That will give you something else. It's not necessarily wrong, it's just not, it's not what I'm doing to get this effect. So if you want this effect, keep them on the wire towards you. Open that around. So there's the second rotation. Wrapping it around. I remember, Randy, remember that Black Friday when we waited in line for that laptop?
Which time we've done it? A few?
The first time in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
When I sat in line and I made like 20 of these.
Yeah, I remember.
That was the first time we had done this design.
Okay.
So,
there's your two bracelets.
oh, thank you,
One
honey.
is the correct color pattern. The other is
Okay. But yeah, so it just, I don't know, it's whenever I work on a bracelet like this, I remember every other time I've worked on a bracelet like this. And so it's like, it's almost like going through a physical reenactment photo album of being like, I remember. Okay, so there's that. Now I'm going to compare the sizes. Quite frankly, I think this is just as close as it's going to get. So I'm going to set that wire off to the side. And now I'm going to keep this nice and smushed down as best I can. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab this wire. About 1/4 of an inch up the nose of my pliers. And I'm just spiraling it down. And now you can actually take this and flatten it off. That way there's no weird pokey bits poking your pokables. Yeah. Okay, so now is this last finishing part. I'm going to take the 18 gauge copper wire and I'm going to measure off, oh, let me see. For me, it's a hand width. Let me measure and see how long that is. It's about 2.5 inches, but you could probably err on the side of 3. But I'm going to cut both of these the same length. Boop. Just like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a spiral. And I'm just kind of cinching that in, and that's how I get it started. And then I'm going to grab it with my nylon jaw pliers, and I'm going to bring it in just that much to start with. I want a real nice tight spiral, and I'm going to do that on the other one as well. Well, by other one I mean the other piece of wire. And I have to plug in my phone real quick. Are you charging now, phone? Sure, I hope so. Okay, sorry, I'm back. And so I'm coming around like that. And I'm going to grab it with my nylon jaw pliers and kind of just smush it down. And I want it to be as close to the same size as the other one as what I can. That looks pretty close. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to thread on one end of the bracelet. I'm going to add a 6mm bead. I'm going to thread on this end of this bracelet and a 6mm bead. And then I'm going to thread on our third bracelet, just like that. So there's kind of a lot going on here, but you can kind of see, and it's all floppy right now, but you can see how that the 6mm beads here are behaving like spacers that will keep these equidistant. And now I'm going to come through on this tail of the wire here and make more spirals. And you want to keep it nice and flat and tight. Oops. I am sorry for all these loud plier noises. I hope you know if it's driving you crazy. It's driving me crazy too. Oh, mercy. And this is where I don't much care for the spring steel memory wire, because it really just bounces right back into place where it wants to be, which is great for when it's a bracelet and all, but when you want it to just let me work on you, it can get kind of annoying. So now from here you can see I'm taking these and I'm actually bending them off quite a bit to the side here. Oops. And that's why I have two cameras set up, is so whenever I go off a track like that, you can still see what's going on. And so just like that. And it makes a nice little wire finished end. And now we get to do the same thing on this other end. So I'm going to thread through one bracelet. Come on, camera. There we go. Thread through one. Put a 6mm bead on. Boop. Have gravity get the better of you. So just threading that bead on there. Going through the next bracelet. Threading another bead on. And then going through the third bracelet. Just like that. And now I'm going to make a spiral on the other end. And you can see that one kind of got a bit wonky. Just coming in with the pliers will flatten it right back out for you. And then you can start tightening that spiral down, deepening it. And so from here we want the spirals to be on the same plane. Like that, as opposed to like that, if that makes sense. So now I'm just going to keep cinching this in. And you can see I kind of just tuck this side off to the side just to get it out of the way. And then bringing these down to the ends. And you could make bigger spirals if you wanted. You could make them both large enough that they could overlap. You know, just whatever you like. But this makes a very nice, a very stiff, like well-shaped bangle, and it overlaps just enough here on the end, and you can actually take this and fold it around to the underside if you like, so that way you can't even tell. So there's the inside and there's the back side. So that's how it came out, you guys. So I do hope that this tutorial was helpful to y'all. If you enjoyed it or have any questions, comments, or ideas, I'd love to hear from you guys. Also, if you enjoy our free tutorials and you would like to support the creation of more of them, please check us out on Patreon, because we do like giveaways and all sorts of stuff where if you pledge just $1, it puts your name in the hat for all of our giveaways, but especially our patron exclusive Fairy House giveaway one time. If you pledge $5, it puts your name into all of our giveaways 5 times. And if you pledge $10 or more, you still get your name in all the hats once for all the different giveaways we do across all our different social media, but you get a kit of either like tools and materials or a gift, whichever your preference is, mailed to you every month. So it's kind of like Loot Crate, but it's really fun. And I send you a message every month. I'm like, hey, do you want a gift or some materials? So you can choose one, one month and then one the next, and then just kind of decide for yourself where you'd like to go from there. So, but yeah, so all of the money that's raised on Patreon goes towards increasing the production quality of our videos, getting materials for teaching the workshops and panels that we do at conventions to kind of spread around that artisan education efforts that we do, and just keeping this whole ball rolling. So we really appreciate all of y'all's contributions and everything. Like, you guys make my dreams come true, and I hope that I can help y'all as much as y'all help me. So thank you guys so much. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you want to send me pictures of what you make, find me on Facebook. If Future Vaughn remembers, please, Vaughn, start putting links in your videos. Like, come on. I will put a link down in the video description linking to our Facebook page where you can share pictures of your work to our Facebook. And that way everybody can see it and be like, oh, that's very nice. And we can all like kind of learn from each other and everything. So kind of get a little bit of a community going over there as well as here on YouTube. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see y'all around. Happy crafting. Bye.